All right, welcome back to another episode of the Leadership Puzzle. We're here to dive into the art and science of leadership, one piece at a time. I'm your host, Jeff Lupinacci, and today we're exploring what it truly means to lead change through strategy and people. I have a super special guest, Dr. Luis Luarca, a PhD in leadership and organizational change, a trusted advisor to executives, and an author on leadership and motivation. Luis has a gift for transforming the complex into clear, simple ideas that can help leaders not just analyze their processes, but inspire people through them. In this episode, we're going to unpack how to balance that operational excellence with that authentic inspiration, how to drive transformational change that sticks. I am so excited to have Luis with us. Welcome to the Leadership Puzzle.
Thanks, Jeff. I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you for having me.
All right, you have a really fascinating journey from where you started to where you are today. You're an accountant by trade, and now you're into leadership and, gosh, human psychology and change initiatives. Tell us how you landed into this space from the accounting world.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm even fascinated by it. But yeah, listen, I'm an accountant. And by the way, everybody, accounting is just math. It's just really math. I left corporate America about 25 years ago. Great springboard. Worked for a very large food company in the United States. Really, just really learned a lot. Got into consulting on the accounting side. And again, it's just math. It was very easy for me to balance the books, balance a budget, create a budget. And I got really good at that. But over the years, I slowly realized, hey, wait a second, accounting is not just about numbers. It's about how do the numbers become the numbers, right? So if you were to take a root cause analysis perspective, those numbers are created by the company. And the company is run by humans, right? Processes, machines. You may be as automated as the next guy, but you still need a human to push those buttons.
Right.
So I started to look at that. I started to look at how do humans and the machines, how do those things influence accounting? And I just, year after year, I just got deeper and deeper into that thinking. And I got good at that. I mean, it was so simple. Just listen to what the employees are suggesting. I mean, at the end of the day, employees are the users of the organization. They use the machines, they use the processes, they do what company needs to get done. So I started to listen to them, and I started to use some of the things that they were saying in some of these consulting projects, and the rest is history. And what I concluded was, the employees probably know more about the organization than most leadership, right?
Oh, for sure.
And I had to confirm that. I can't just go around telling people that. I had to confirm it. So I went to go get a PhD. In my research, I found that baser human behavior is what truly influences organizational performance. And I just started to look at that even deeper and deeper. At the time, I was a minority shareholder of my own sheet metal company in Houston, Texas. So I was only observing my own employees, and I would do some things here and there, but I was still consulting a lot. And I really came to the conclusion that, hey, wait a second. If you just listen to what your employees are trying to tell you, right, through that suggestion box, a lot of leadership thinks, hey, if we plug in a suggestion box over there, everyone will be happy. Well, you got to react to that suggestion.
Right. Yep.
But again, I got really good at it. Just listen to the employees. And And here I am. I'm 25 years into this. I've got great clients currently. I've had great clients in the past, and there are probably going to be some great clients in the future. Made great friends, traveled the world basically, particularly the United States. Amazing places in the United States. Amazing entrepreneurs, amazing leaders, and amazing employees. Amazing employees are out there. And all they want to do from a psychological perspective is they just want you to listen to them.
Mm.
Just listen, right? So it's been a great ride. It's been a great, great ride. I love it.
Well, you became so passionate about this that you even wrote a couple of books, and the one that I think is really applicable to what we're talking about immediately is the book Do Employees Really Want to Work Here? So tell us a little bit about that book and what prompted you to write it in the first place.
Uh, Funny story. What prompted me to write this is I was at a restaurant in Los Angeles, I think about 8 years ago, and I overheard the table next to me. It was lunchtime, and these employees came in to have lunch, and there was like six of them at this table, and they were just complaining about their boss, their ownership, the leadership at the company. I don't know what company they worked at, but I thought to myself, golly, not only have I heard those complaints, but this group of people were so frustrated that they went to lunch and are still talking about how much they hate their job. And I thought, man, why do they still work there? I mean, what drives employees to work somewhere if the culture is not right, if the leadership is not right? And the irony is leadership always believes that it knows what it's doing. And I can attest, and I'm qualified to say, most leadership does not know what it's doing, especially if your employees are out to lunch complaining about you, right? So that's what drove me to write the book. And I just figured, you know what? I just finished this PhD, this great research, and yeah, that's public. You can read that as well. But then I thought, let me incorporate my PhD with my 25 years of doing what I've done, right? 80 plus companies, um, different situations, different leadership styles, different employees, different parts of the country, different products, different services. Is it all the same? Is the solution all the same? Not really, because every business is unique, right?
Yeah, right.
You could say in a broader sense, yeah, let's pay attention to the employees, but the employees uh, relative to the business, they have a better idea of what needs to work for that company, right?
Right.
I've never taken a successful solution from one client into the next. It doesn't work. It does not work. But what I do take is that ability to listen to the employees, right? I always tell clients there's a reason why humans have two ears, right? One is for listening and one is for hearing, right?
Mm.
Most leadership hears the employees, but they're not listening, right?
Right.
And again, baser human behavior. We just want to be acknowledged. We want somebody to listen to us. Look at me, look at me. And when you've got some great employees with great ideas, you probably want to listen to them. And there's a lot of different tools to do that, right? I'll tell you a quick story. I
Yeah.
remember uh, I was with a client a long time ago, and I walked into the office one morning and I went into the conference room, and the human resource manager, the operations manager, and one of the engineering managers were having a meeting. So I popped in and I said, hey, you guys, what are you guys talking about? And they said, oh, we're trying to figure out how to make the welding department more efficient. And I said, hey, guys, wouldn't it be a little better if you were to get the 14 welders that are in that department in this conference room to participate in this discussion? And I have to tell you, Jeff, they were surprised with that idea.
Jeez. It's
Huh?
basic, isn't it?
You would think. Um, but that is the notion that, well, leadership knows how to do this. Leadership knows how to do that. And it might be true. Leadership knows how to manage and lead the organization, but they don't know how the organization ticks. The employees do. So my success is truly surrounded around employee motivation. What motivates an employee? What inspires an employee, right? So that's what drove me to write that book. And so far, so good. You know, it's a combination of my dissertation research and my 25 years of working with 80 different companies. So
So
it's a
what?
good.
No, that's great. Yeah, available on Amazon.
Yes.
And so, uh, if you were to encapsulate, and I know every individual has a different motivation, but from a if you put a corporate or a company lens, is there one or two things that leaders can do that really move the needle in terms of motivating that employee base?
Mhm. I'll give you one home run that I recommend to everybody, whether you're a $1 million business or you're Tesla. By the way, Tesla is a really interesting company. If you ever get a chance to read their employee manual, a fascinating read. But yeah, again, if you're a $1 million company and you're struggling and how to get your employees to do what you want them to do, and even if you're $300 million, all you've got to do is listen to them. And I'll go back to the traditional suggestion box. It's not just about putting a suggestion box out there. It's about reading the suggestions and responding to them. Okay. That's where the human, not the employee, that's where the human acknowledges that you've acknowledged them, right? So some of the ideas in the suggestion box are ludicrous. Can't do them, but you still have to respond to them. That's showing the human that you've read it, you acknowledge it, and you're responding to it, right? You can't take a suggestion box and just do the good stuff, or you can't take a suggestion box and do nothing with it, right? Suggestion boxes were great in the old days. Today, you literally have to get in front of the employees and talk to them, listen to them, respond to them. And a lot of what I do are the things that I've seen other leaders do, including the corporate company that I used to work for right out of college. I remember meeting that CEO, and he was so nice, and all he did was talk to us, and I was just some kid, right? And here's this tall man talking to me in the elevator, and I thought, oh my gosh, what do I say? But what was more profound was he talked to me. He asked me a question, right? Huge in my mind. So when you look at the baser psychology of humans, we want certain things out of other humans. Look at me, acknowledge me, listen to me. I have a brain, I have an idea, that's all you got to do. I mean, it's really, not only is that the best thing to do, but it's a great start. Once you do that, the rest just comes organically. Uh, Humans want to participate in the development of that organization. And all you got to do is listen to them. Don't hear them, listen to them.
Listen to them. That's great. It actually reminds me of oh gosh, I'm going to date myself a little bit, but back in business school and a year or two ago, management by walking around. And when I was a young manager, I did that a lot. I was like, oh, okay, walk from cube to cube. And every day I'd go and just see how the employees were doing, which is akin to what I think you're talking about. Now, I want to overlay the current reality that we face in today's business world with this remote hybrid. Not everybody's in the same location anymore. How do you suggest managers and leaders actually like get there and hear the employees if they're not all in one location like they used to be?
Well, believe it or not, I understand and I respect everything that happened in shift, but again, uh, basic human psychology is We are social creatures.
Yeah.
The notion of working from home is great. Uh, I'll tell you what, the notion of retirement is great, but when you're retired, it's boring, right? So again, the notion of working at home is great. Look at me, I'm my own boss. It's boring. Uh, I'm going to guess most employees do want to come back to work. Sure, that's a shift in their current paradigm. Wake up, do some work in their pajamas. But at the end of the day, the psychology of humans is that we do want to socialize. Get us back to the office, get us back there so we can commune and socialize and participate. I, I, I challenge anybody out there to prove to me that human psychology states that working remote is better than socializing at work. Humans need that socialization. We just do. There's no way in the world that you can change an organization when the individual is removed from it, right? They're still employed, they still do the work, they still turn in their assignments, but humans need to participate, they need to socialize. And it's not anything that I experienced. That's what we do. We are social creatures. So
Yeah.
you got to be at work. So you have to be able to participate and make the changes. Uh, there are some jobs that can go remote or not, and there are other jobs that no, you got to go to work.
Sure.
You look at the majority of the employees, particularly in the United States, they're at work every day. So for those organizations out there who are still remote, I'm telling you, the human, we like to socialize. I mean, even those remote workers at 5, 6 o'clock at night, you'll find them at some happy hour because they have to socialize, right? So
Socialize. Yeah.
might as well get them back to work. So
It, it just dawned on me, and I wonder if there's a correlation. You may, being a student of psychology and human behavior, there seems to be a rise of mental wellness, mental health issues with employees, frankly. And do you think that there is a correlation between this remote being secluded, segmented away from, that environment where you felt like you were part of a tribe, an organization that you belonged to, and now you're separate, you're distinct.
absolutely. The stress on the mentality of all of us when we're alone uh, is pretty serious. So again, the idea of remote work is great. I get to go to work in my pajamas, but at the end of the day, it's stressful because you're not socializing, you're not communicating. One of the worst things a human can do is be alone. Uh, and when you're alone with your own thoughts. And we are our own worst enemy, right?
Hmm.
So when we're working remote and it's time for us to take a break, we start talking to whoever's in the room. And guess who's in the room? Us. And we start saying things to ourselves that are uh, stressful, create anxiousness. I read once, our imagination is worse than our reality. Uh,
Hmm.
Humans are good at doing that. We again, if we're alone, it's the end of the world. But if we're socializing, if we're participating, even at work, it's healthier. It is healthier than working remote. It just is. I get it. There's probably moms out there saying, "No, I want to be with my kids." Fine, but at some point, that mom's going to go, "Oh my gosh, I'd rather be in the office," right? So, uh, and then again, there's that notion that working remote is great until it's not, and more often, it's not as great as people think it is. Again, humans, we are animals, just like every other animal on the planet, right? And we socialize. We need to socialize.
Yeah,
So,
and the argument that you get more work done, maybe in short spouts that is true, but I would guess, given how what we've just talked about, that over the long run, it doesn't play out.
It does not. And it's interesting that you talk about the more work gets done. More work does get done in the very, very beginning of remote. But I'm pretty confident that not a lot of work gets done in the middle and the longer portion of that remote work. And I know that for a fact because I've worked with clients who have employees working from home. And I'm used to processes, right? I'm used to procedures. I'm used to seeing results of data, hence my accounting background.
Right.
So when I look at remote workers who are not producing what they should be producing, or when I look at organizations who don't know what the employees are producing because there's no procedure or process in place, then it begs the question: how do you know if that remote worker is actually being more productive at work? It just the math doesn't compute.
Right.
As an accountant, I always look at the world as math. I mean, we're doing math all the time in the back of our heads, all the time.
Right.
So when I think about a remote worker being more productive, I would like to see that data. And again, most organizations do not have the data to prove that. They just don't.
Well, there's some big consultant agencies that want to that make up the data to sell it to you.
Oh, sure, it's more billable hours. So yeah,
Exactly. Oh,
but
that is too.
I'm staunch on data. Give me some data to prove me wrong, and I challenge anyone. Prove me wrong, but you got to prove me wrong with that data. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not convinced that now I spent my whole career in the office, and now that I'm running my own business, and I'm from home, it's I'm gonna get a lot done, but boy, it's not nearly as much fun as the camaraderie you have when you're with other people.
Sure, it is. It's not fun. It really is not fun. Now, don't get me wrong. Humans, we do need some alone time, but too much alone time is dangerous. I mean,
Yeah.
when you think about during COVID, uh, there was too much alone time. It became isolation. And again, um, in our psychology, right? So, by the way, we're all wired the same, right? We're all wired the same. We just manage that wiring differently. But in our psychology, when we are alone for too long of a time, we start talking to those voices in our head. And we all have those voices. It's the id, the superego, and the ego. We're all having this conversation. And sometimes one of those voices becomes louder than the other one.
Right.
And when you don't have outside noise to interrupt that, then you start listening to that one voice. And again, our imagination is worse than our reality, right? So, because we create the imagination, right?
Yeah.
I wish I could, I wish I could work from the beach, and then it just spins into, I hate my job, I'm gonna quit. Whoa, that's not the voice you want to hear.
Oh, so let me go jump on social media and see what great lives everybody else has.
Oh yeah, and that is the worst. That's probably a different uh, podcast, but social media, I just it just fuels that one voice that's too loud. Then it gets louder because of
Yep.
yeah what we're seeing on social media.
Yep.
You know,
That noise.
yeah, it's amazing. It really is amazing.
So you work with all different kinds of clients, and you mentioned you've had some great clients. Have you had any clients that were just so difficult to work with? They needed so much change, and you just went, oh, okay, I'm done. Your guys are on your own.
Yeah, it's a great question. I've got a million stories of that too. But when I started this, I went to work for a consulting company out of Chicago, and great training, great training. Uh, and I had to put up with those clients because it wasn't just me that was part of that project, right? But when I started to do this on my own, I realized, hey, wait a second, I don't know with certain things. In 2023, I terminated two different clients because they were in my way, they were in their own way, and they were doing some things that I just didn't see were good. But yeah, there are those people out there that get in their own way. I talk about this a lot, and I probably should Google this every time I do a podcast. But there's a great podcast out there with Jeff Bezos, 2 hours.
Hmm.
Right about the hour point, the host asks Jeff Bezos, "Hey Jeff, what was the real reason you left Amazon?" And Jeff's response was, I realized that I was a great CEO of Amazon, but I was also a great CEO of getting in my own way.
Hmm.
And I thought, oh my gosh, that is so amazing. This guy admitted to that because I've seen owners, CEOs, presidents, whether it's ego or something else, they're just in their own way. And now that I get to do this on my own, I terminate my own clients. And it's funny because other people in my business are like, oh my gosh, you terminated a client? Absolutely. My reputation is on this. I don't like to see what I'm seeing. And some of the responses that these people are giving me are just not appropriate. So, yeah, I've seen a lot of them and I've terminated them.
Yeah.
But the complete opposite, I've met some amazing, amazing people, amazing, amazing people, leaders, business owners, entrepreneurs, employees, amazing employees. I have former employees of my clients that are my friends. I have former clients that I hang out with that are now my friends. I think the entrepreneurial spirit, particularly in the United States, is truly amazing.
Yeah.
All the opportunity that these entrepreneurs get and some of the creativity with some of the things these people do for a living, it's fascinating. So yeah, when I do meet a difficult one, I don't blink twice about terminating that contract.
Yeah, I think that's probably one of the hardest things for entrepreneurs, consultants, service-oriented providers to make that call because it's revenue and where's that balance of is every dollar a good dollar or yeah, really there's your own personal well-being that you have to consider in the transaction.
It's your moral fortitude, your moral compass, right?
Yeah.
There's a Japanese term I've coined lately, ikigai. That is, you do your passion, you do what you love, you do what you're good at, and you get paid for that. And if you can find your ikigai, then everything will fall into place. So when I terminate clients, I don't think twice about it. I don't lose sleep over it. I know that I'm going to terminate a client for whatever reason. I'm out because I'm living in my ikigai, right? I'm one of the few humans on the planet that actually get to go to work and enjoy what I do. I don't have to go to work. I go to work because I really, really enjoy it.
Yeah. No, that's great.
Yeah,
That's
it's
great. Now, a
fun.
big part of what you do is you go into an organization and you help them change for the better, right? You go in, you assess, you figure out what they need to do, whether it's process or people or you help get them on that path to being a successful organization. But I know many leaders struggle with that change and that buy-in. From your experience, what's the biggest mistake that leaders can make when approaching change, and that's preventing them from getting some real momentum to make a breakthrough?
Ego.
Hmm.
as most businesses, small, medium in the United States, are operated, run, owned, managed by men, uh, women as well face that ego challenge. It's time for me to change. I don't think I can do it. I don't want to change. Humans don't like to change. The more favorable term these days is pivot, right? Um, but humans innately, we just don't like to change. We don't like change. Now, when it comes to an entrepreneur who's built something from the ground up and now realizes, uh-oh, something's wrong, I got to make a change. It's their own ego that does not allow them to change. And I'll give you one more. It's a very big deal for an entrepreneur, a leader of any organization, to admit I need some help, right? Because again, somewhere along the line in the existence of that corporation, something went wrong. I wasn't paying attention. I didn't lead correctly. That's a punch to the ego. So not only is it a punch to the ego, but how do I ask for help
Hmm.
now? Um, and it takes a very big person to say to themselves and their leadership team and their employees, hey, you guys, we've come to this point. I need some help. I'm going to go look for some help. But yeah, ego is the biggest hurdle that leadership entrepreneurs have to get over. Not to name names, but in the last 6 clients that I've had, uh, these owners are struggling with their own ego. The fix is easy. They just need to acknowledge that there is an issue. I'll fix it for you, right? But just making that call is very difficult. And one last thing on this topic: the biggest barrier in that ego issue is entrepreneurs and leaders believe I'm the only company struggling with this issue.
Hmm.
That's not true. I can tell you from experience, every client that I've had struggles with the same thing. There are 3 things that all organizations suffer with day in and day out, whether you're $1 million business or a $300 million business, or there's a great story on FedEx. 3 things. Number one, payroll. Am I going to make payroll this week? Number two, payroll. Am I going to make payroll this week? And number three, do I have enough sales to make payroll? Right? Uh, I've experienced it myself as a business owner. I've seen my clients stress out about that. Um, and they believe we're the only company suffering from the payroll issue. Mm-mm. I'm going to guess 99% of small business in the United States struggles with that payroll issue.
I think
And
100%.
yeah, during COVID, unfortunately, a large percentage of small businesses went out of business because, according to some statistics, there was not enough cash flow to warrant 2 payroll cycles. So a lot of businesses just closed up because they couldn't survive.
Yeah.
Thank God for that stimulus package. Uh, Most businesses just said, hey, we don't have the cash for 2 payroll cycles. We're just going to close. That's where you had the unemployment. The unemployment had nothing to do with people being laid off because we're going to get contagious. The unemployment was based on we have no cash.
Yeah.
We don't have enough reserve to make payroll through this issue. So again, all business owners really need to understand you're not the only one going through that pain. You're just not. The pain is the same across the board. So, yeah.
I never really appreciated the importance of cash flow. I mean, my whole career was with big Fortune 500, or even larger private equity companies where cash wasn't a real issue until I started running my own business and I'm looking at payroll and going, okay, do I pay my employee? Do I pay my vendor? do I pay myself?
Right?
And that was the order that it ended up, it ends up being in.
Right, right.
So,
And currently, I have a client. They are doing very well, very well. They have grown like a weed. They're doing very well, but they still called me in because they recognize we need a lot of processes. We need a lot of procedures on those processes. We don't even know what we do, but we just make all this money. Um, and still, I am that voice that says, "Hey, look, guys, even though you got a couple million in the bank, because they do, it doesn't mean you can start spending on overtime. It doesn't mean you're going to build another building over here. It doesn't mean you're going to hire 5 more people, right? Um, I'm still developing KPIs for them. I still have them on a budget, and every now and then one of them will say, why do we need this budget? Everything's fine." That's the problem, right? Ego in the reverse, right? One of these days things might get difficult where you literally might have to manage your business. Now, again, that's 1 in 100. 99% of the businesses out there are struggling with cash
yeah,
flow,
yeah.
and these tariffs are not going to help the situation. So, um, yeah, again, if I could stress to all the entrepreneurs out there, you're not alone. Uh, you can throw a rock and hit your neighbor's business, and he's going through the same
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, you mentioned that ego gets in the way, and you can help solve their problems, but how do you get that leader to put their ego aside long enough to let you or anybody come in and help them, do what needs to get done?
Uh, well, it's twofold. Like I said earlier, it's data. Uh, because of my accounting background, I'm able to get on their good side because I show them data, right? I know that they're looking at data, which is what prompted the call in the first place, but I get to show them data and explain why that data exists, right? Um, I've always told all accountants, right? It's so easy to be a CFO because if you have the right, accurate, auditable data, it tells its own story.
Yeah.
I almost don't have to talk. Here's the data.
Right.
And then the second thing that gets that leadership to at least give me a minute, again, it's the two-ear thing. I listen to them. I don't hear what they're saying. I listen to them, and more often than not, I listen to things that they normally wouldn't have said to anybody else, because there's that level of confidence, there's that level of privacy, confidentiality, and that's where they gain trust in not only my background but my responses to those comments. Again, as a business owner myself, it is very stressful. There are times where you ask yourself, like, why did I get into this? Well, because you're in your ikigai, right? All entrepreneurs, we drive forward because that's what drives us. It's this thing that we want. And when it doesn't work well, it's very emotional.
Yeah.
And when I can empathize with a leader, not so much because of what I've done myself, but what I've seen, kind of like what I've said a minute ago, they're not alone. I've had entrepreneurs be very emotional with me about that payroll issue. And I let them know, I put their minds at ease that you're not the only one. You're just not the only one.
Yeah.
And there are other buttons that allow those leaders to gain trust with me. And I think that's important because anybody can be a consultant. When I look at social media, everybody is a consultant, but they're 30 years old, and I'm like, how does that work, right? One thing I believe that separates me from everybody else is empathy. I know exactly what they're talking about. I've had a couple of companies myself where one of them was great, what a great ride. But that business was tied to the price of a barrel of oil, and then it wasn't a great ride. Um, and then I bought another business, and that was great for about a month. And after that, I was like, I don't want this because there's this level of stress, that level of stress. So, but also the 80 plus clients that I've seen, there's a different level of stress, and it all boils down to cash flow, payroll, cash flow, payroll, cash flow. From an accounting perspective, yeah, there's a lot of different ways to manage through that. But I think from a leadership perspective, so much more that a leader can do to develop those processes and procedures. And those humans are more valuable than most machines in the business. They just are. I've always believed that humans are much more valuable an asset than a machine.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Well, I know that we are running out of time. Unfortunately, I'm really enjoying our conversation. Um, uh, but so you have a website, HTTP Luis Luarca, PhD. That's LuisLuarca.com. I'll make sure that we put it in the notes. And so if you want to get in touch with Luis, then please go there, and I know he'd love to chat with you. Any last words of wisdom to our audience while we have you?
I would say to every entrepreneur out there, you're not alone. You are not alone. The stresses that you face are more common than you believe. They just are. Remember, payroll. I get that, right? My employees don't do what I want them to do. I get that too. There's a solution for that, and you're not alone. I don't have the customer base that I need. You're not alone, right? My supply chain is disrupted. You're not alone. Especially now with these tariffs, and are we on? Are we off? What does it mean? You're not alone. I've seen it all. Good and bad. So, fear not. There is a light at the end of the tunnel.
Well, that's great. Those are great words of wisdom, Luis. Thank you so much for joining us. This has been a great conversation.
Thank you for having me. I really do appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, as Luis said, you're not alone, and make sure that you're listening to your employees and connecting with them, because that is a true sign of leadership. And so if you're walking away with some new insights, please share the episode with someone who could also benefit from this episode. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss the next piece of the puzzle. And as always, until next time, keep leading, keep learning, and keep putting the pieces together of your leadership puzzle.